May I have your attention, please? Ladies and gentlemen, if everyone would please take a seat, we'd greatly appreciate it so we can get our board meeting started. Good morning and welcome to the Oyster Bay Town Board meeting of Tuesday, May 8th, 2018. To lead us in prayer this morning, we welcome our friend Rabbi Jen Weinstein of Simchat Halev Synagogue in Syosset. Rabbi Jen resides in East Norwich and was ordained 4 years ago. As a graduate of the rabbinical program at Jewish Spiritual Leaders Institute, Rabbi Jen works daily to educate, guide, and support her congregants on the spiritual path. Rabbi Jen Weinstein of Simchat Halev Synagogue.
Thank you.
Would everyone please rise?
Holy One of blessing, we come together today as leaders and residents with the intent to do good. It is with faith and hope that the outcomes of today's meeting will be favorable and just. This is the day that you have made. We are grateful and we are hopeful. May you continue to lead and guide us as we come together today at this town board meeting, working toward the betterment of our town, the town of Oyster Bay. May the leadership, along with the town residents and business owners, continue to work together to enhance our community, to promote ethical, righteous, positive implementation of change, and to provide an environment which protects the dignity of all people. Kenya Hiratzon, may this be your will, O God, and together we say, Amen.
Amen. All remain standing, please, and join me in welcoming Hicksville High School teachers Beth Atkinson and Philip Moshoyanis, who will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. If the two of you would please step forward.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You all may be seated. It's very apropos that we have teachers from Hicksville School District here to lead us because today is National Teachers Recognition Day. My colleagues and I are taking this opportunity to reflect upon the teachers and all they do to shape our lives and the lives of our town students and prepare our leaders of tomorrow. We can't thank them enough for their dedication, compassion, and their tireless efforts. All of us can look back upon teachers in our lives who have inspired us and played an instrumental role in building our foundations for the future. We're extremely fortunate to have some of the finest schools and some of the best and brightest teachers in the nation, right here in the town of Oyster Bay. This morning, we honor two of these teachers, both from the Hicksville School District. Hicksville High School art teacher Beth Atkinson and Lee Avenue Elementary School teacher Philip Moshoyanis. They have joined us here this morning, and they're joined by their colleagues, including Hicksville School Superintendent Dr. Carl Bonasso, Hicksville High School Principal Raymond Williams, and Lee Avenue Elementary School Principal Stephanie Stam, as well as Hicksville High School Social Studies Supervisor Rose Borda. Let's begin this morning with Beth Atkinson, who will be retiring at the end of the school year. She began teaching art at Hicksville High School in 1986. Beth is well respected by her colleagues, students, and the community for her caring demeanor and her unique ability to connect with those she teaches. She has an incredible legacy of accomplishments in the district and in the community. Beth's many recognitions include being named New York State Art Teacher of the Year, Long Island Educator of the Year, a Harvard Club of Long Island Educator of Distinction, and has been listed with Who's Who among American teachers on 8 separate occasions. That's pretty amazing. Her community efforts are equally extensive, having served as co-chair for Talent for the Troops, a benefit that supports this nation's wounded warriors. Beth is also active with Relay for Life, Habitat for Humanity. She's organized a food, clothing, and supplies drive to be sent to Ground Zero in the wake of 9/11, which was sent there. And she has also coordinated many successful efforts to raise money for the New York State Art Teachers Association student scholarships. We all thank you, Beth, for being a true role model in a classroom and in the community. And we have a town citation to thank you and on behalf of the community and the town for all of your efforts. And I'm going to ask our councilwoman, Michelle Johnson, to make the presentation of this, and I'm asking all of our elected officials to join us down in front. Would you please join us? Ladies and gentlemen, Beth Atkinson.
Congratulations.
Beth, would you like to say a few words?
Might be a little hard for me because I'll get a little teary because Hicksville has been a very important part of my life for 32 years. And I thank you very much.
Our second teacher of recognition this morning is Lee Avenue Elementary School teacher Philip Mashoyanis. And I hope I'm getting that right.
Nobody gets it right. It's okay.
Pronunciation.
It's pronounced Moshkoyanis.
Moskoyanis. Okay. Did I get it right?
You got it right now.
Philip, now in his 23rd year as an elementary school teacher at Lee Avenue Elementary School, has always exemplified the highest ideals of public service, professionalism, and dedication to the job, and obviously to the students. Philip was selected as a Fulbright teacher for the U.S. Department of State's Global Classroom Project. Philip is one of only 4 teachers from New York State and the sole representative from Long Island to be selected for this prestigious national program. He's also served as an officer in the National Guard and helped patrol Ground Zero following the attacks on September 11, 2001. We thank him for his selfless service to our nation. Highly skilled educators like Philip empower students to achieve greatness in the classroom and in the community, and obviously for their careers. His infectious enthusiasm and ability have proven, his affability have proven to be the most effective assets as an educator. We acknowledge and commend Philip for his years of extraordinary teaching and his well-deserved selection for the Fulbright program. I'm going to ask Councilman Tom Hand to make this presentation to you, and if you would all come up again, we congratulate you as Teacher of the Year.
East Norwich, Oyster Bay. I went to the high school here, and to come back here today to receive this award is very touching. As I walked into the building today, I saw on the wall of honor some of my students who are serving right now or who have served. So they're always in the back of my mind. And so with that, I say thank you very much. And thank you to the
You could shed a tear right now.
It's very emotional. Trust me, it really is. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
This morning, the Oyster Bay Town Board has recognized outstanding teachers. Well, it's only fitting that we honor an exceptional student, that being Oyster Bay High School senior Brittany Browner. In addition to being a member of the National Honor Society and Science Honor Society, Brittany plays on her school's badminton team and is a member of Girl Scout Troop 138 in Oyster Bay. As part of her community service component of earning her Gold Award, Girl Scouts' highest honor, Brittany designed an incredibly comprehensive self-guided tour pamphlet that features historical highlights in Oyster Bay with ties to our nation's 26th president, Theodore Roosevelt, who's affectionately referred to here in the northern end of the town as the Colonel. Brittany's Teddy Tour pamphlet includes 13 local historical destinations. Among them are Sagamore Hill, which served as President Roosevelt's summer White House, and Young Cemetery. Today, we proudly recognize Brittany's effort, which highlights the historical importance of Oyster Bay and the local area, encouraging visits and tourism. My colleagues and I in the Oyster Bay Town Board salute the actions and extraordinary community services of Oyster Bay High School senior Brittany Browner. If you and your family would like to step forward, we have a very special town citation to present to you, and I'm going to ask the member of the board closest in age to you, Lou Imbrodo, to please make the presentation.
On behalf of our town board and the 300,000 residents of the town of Oyster Bay, I present this award to you. So congratulations and thank you for it.
What's it, NIMBY Day here? 100 NIMBYs here.
Sorry, Rabbi. Sorry, thank you.
And that's all.
All right, here we go. Just hold that for me 1 second. And now just this way again. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Brittany, would you like to say something?
This is a great opportunity for me at such a young age especially, and I would really like to thank the Chamber of Commerce for going out for me.
Well, we're not, we get one here again. We're not the only ones who would like to honor Brittany. Very important members of the community are our veterans and our Chamber of Commerce, and they'd all like to honor you for your great work. Let's start off with a man who is just an incredible leader in the community. He's worked very hard for the business community and for all of our residents, and that's Chamber of Commerce President Alex Gallego. Come on up, Alex.
So, Brittany, so proud of you. And I've known this young lady and coached her in soccer. So So I can't believe what a wonderful woman, young woman she's become. And this is just the beginning, kid. You're going places. On behalf of the Chamber of Commerce, because we drive every day for one thing, to make sure this hamlet is recognized. And Brittany, through her efforts, through that pamphlet, through her hard work, is allowing that visitorship, that tourism, that renaissance that we are seeing now in the community to take life. And we thank you from the Chamber of Commerce, and on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce and the Gallego Financial Group, we are presenting you with a scholarship that's in there, an award, a financial award, to take on the Yes. So along with that, our ANVETS Post 21, the American Veterans Post, which was just started here about a year and a half ago. Our Commander, Richard DeJesus, and members of the post are here in attendance to present Brittany with this certificate acknowledging her Gold Award, but also thanking her for her service as a Girl Scout and now as a leader in the future. Brittany, congratulations.
Okay,
Thank you.
perhaps we can get everyone together for
Okay, so if you all move this direction, we'll try to get you all in.
Okay, and here we go. One more. Thank you. Congratulations.
Great, ladies and gentlemen, this is the pamphlet. We suggest you all take one, and I'm going to take this a step further and coordinate with our communications office to incorporate your information so it becomes a town-wide pamphlet that everyone can enjoy and work with you on creating something for all of our residents. I hope you enjoy it. You can take pride in the fact that it was your research that got this done. Congratulations. We look forward to doing it. Yes? Okay, before we move forward with the business of the day, and we'll be pulling the board shortly, let us take a moment to update our residents on recent initiatives and events. First, the Town of Oyster Bay Town Board will take action today, something we've been working on for some time, to appoint another new member to our Independent Board of Ethics. Looking forward to that very, very much, and our new board member is here. The time commitment, personal obligations, and harassment by some members of the public have resulted in a turnover of some of the members, and now we're working on replacing those members. We thank all those who have served, those who continue to serve, and those who will be serving in the future. And additionally, the town board took the historic action of being the first municipality to approve funding for the Office of Inspector General back in October, and we're continuing in that process to get this done, but get it done properly. In January, the town board approved the necessary local law and filed such with the Secretary of State and Nassau County Civil Service Commission. Since the last town board meeting 2 weeks ago, the Civil Service Commission has approved the hiring just recently of an Inspector General. To date, 20 individuals have applied for this position, and we want to continue to ask people to put in their resumes so that we have a very wide group of candidates to choose from. And the town board will be moving forward, the committee will be moving forward with the interview process soon. Hiring of an inspector general continues to be a top priority, as well as fully staffing our ethics board. In terms of recent events, I'd like to thank the town supervisors of the town of Hempstead, town of Brookhaven, Huntington, Babylon, Islip, and North Hempstead for joining me late in April, just a couple of weeks ago, where we hosted a Long Island Supervisors Summit. You saw this by following the town of Oyster Bay on Facebook, and we encourage members of the media to get an opportunity to show what we are actually doing in the town. Long Island has long held the role of a leader in governmental progress for the rest of the nation to follow. This summit allowed us to continue with that great tradition. It is one of many of these summits that we'll be holding. We opened the dialogue to share best practices, pursue cost-saving shared services, and set the stage to design an Albany agenda for our townships on items such as reducing the unfunded mandates that cost so much money to every municipality. And I'm very proud to say they all wanted to find out about how we're doing one of the very best recycling programs in all of New York State. And they always ask, how did you institute same-day permits in the town of Oyster Bay? So great kudos to our staff members who assisted with the agenda. Very, very proud to have hosted the Supervisors Summit, and something that ties right into Brittany Browner's work. We held this just down the block from Sagamore Hill to evoke the spirit of Teddy Roosevelt, and we'll continue to meet to work on our agenda, to work on more shared services, and to continue to save money and be more efficient approaching these issues regionally. And once again, thank you to all of the town supervisors. Together, we represent 2.5 million Long Islanders. 2.5 million Long Islanders. We only wish that people watching television or opening the paper knew of what we were doing, but people can find out about all of these great initiatives through the town's Facebook. The town closed out April on a very high note, having planted new trees for Arbor Day in our community, having hosted a very successful car show with hundreds of vehicles, literally upwards of 600 vehicles showed up for our very first island-wide car show. It was really amazing display. That was held at Tobay Beach, and that was a week ago Sunday, or was that Saturday? Saturday, sorry. And it was just amazing. And on the same day, thousands of families flocked to Syosset Woodbury Community Park for our grand and free Spring Festival. Again, tremendous thanks to our commissioners, our staff, whether it was Community and Youth Services, whether it was the Parks Department. Everyone pitched in for some real fun that we were able to deliver free of charge for so many families and all of our residents. Lastly, I want to thank the hundreds of residents who attended a special meeting of the town board last week in Syosset regarding proposed development in Syosset. This town board was elected to represent the people. And that's exactly what we did and what we will continue to do, allowing their voices to be heard, and we heard their voices loud and clear. I want to thank the residents for their public participation in government and for playing a role in ensuring that we have a safe future to come. Now I'd like to get things started, and I ask our town clerk, James Altadonna Jr., to please poll the board.
Supervisor Saladino?
Here.
Councilman Muscarella?
Here.
Councilman McEnone is absent. Councilwoman Lesia?
Here, good morning.
Good morning. Councilwoman Johnson?
Here.
Councilman Imbrodo?
Present.
And Councilman Green?
Here.
Okay. Would you like me to call the first public hearing?
No, actually, our first order of work, we're going to call for an item to be voted on by our town board, and that is part of a process that we've been working on for some time, and that is to appoint a new member of the Town of Oyster Bay Ethics Board. This is something that's been in the works. We've gotten the news out to the public that through so many different initiatives. As a matter of fact, just yesterday, we contacted the daily paper, sent them the information, the resume, and all of the information that we were going to consider appointing a new ethics board member. And I'm sure that tomorrow when you open the daily paper, you'll be reading all about this and perhaps a nice photo as well. I am making the recommendation that the town of Oyster Bay appoint Rabbi Rafi Rank as the newest member of the town board, and the resume for Rabbi Rank has been distributed to all the board members. We'll be continuing in our search to have a full board, but with this one appointment, we'll be able to get back to work. And I ask, please, for a motion.
Supervisor, I'll make a motion to accept the recommendation of Rabbi Perry Raphael Rank to fill a vacancy for the Town of Oyster Bay Board of Ethics.
Very proud to second that motion. I couldn't be more delighted. I've known Rabbi Rank since I've lived here in the Town of Oyster Bay, and he's absolutely the right kind of person to be on this board. Beyond reproach, we're so proud and we're so appreciative that you're willing to serve. Second.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it unanimously. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to call up to the podium the newest member of the Town of Oyster Bay Ethics Board, Rabbi Rafi Rank. Please come up, Rabbi. We will now swear him in, and why don't you stand right here, please, Rabbi? And I am going to ask Councilwoman Rebecca Alessia to please hold the Bible.
It's not the first time. It's the first one.
Yes, Rebecca.
Okay, just 1 minute. Just a procedural item. We need a motion to suspend the rules so we can go to the appointment and then go back to the town board meeting. May I please have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay? Okay, the ayes have it unanimously. That was just a technical.
Now Jim has to call the res out.
Okay. Thank you.
Stay with me here, please.
Welcome to the bureaucracy.
It's all part of the legal process.
Have to change it
Follows
around
the
a little
T
bit.
here.
Okay, you want me to switch these around?
Yeah, for everything.
Did you do the motion to suspend the rules?
You just did.
Okay. Let me read the resolution. Resolution number 340, 2018, which is a resolution pertaining to an appointment to the Town of Oyster Bay Board to fill, Ethics Committee to fill a vacancy. Okay, we're good. Now let's vote on it before we swear him in.
Yes, please.
Okay?
Make a motion to adopt.
I'm sorry?
Make a motion to adopt.
That's what I'm doing. Can you guys give me a second, please? That's what I'm doing. Thank you. May I have a motion to adopt walk-on resolution number 340 on the motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Councilman Mascarella. A second?
I think you're doing a great job, Sam. Second.
Thank you. Thank you. Seconded by Councilwoman Alessia. On the vote, Supervisor Saladino.
Aye.
Councilman Mascarella.
Aye.
Councilman McEnone is absent. Councilwoman Alessia.
Proud to vote aye.
Councilwoman Johnson.
Aye.
Councilman Ambroto.
Aye.
And Councilman Hand.
Aye.
Motion to adopt walk-on resolution number 340, 2018 passes with 6 ayes.
Unanimously.
Go ahead.
We're very proud to swear you in, to continue our work. The board had 9 meetings last year as we started this up. We will continue to meet. We'll be very busy coming up because now we get into the season where our employees submit, including all of the elected officials, submit our financial disclosures, which you'll be going over with the other board members.
and we will continue to move the town of Oyster Bay forward with this working ethics board to continue to bring a new day in the town of Oyster Bay. And having someone with your pedigree, with your resume, with your experience will be a tremendous asset to create a very ethical world here in the town of Oyster Bay with our operations, with reception, and with all that we're doing. So we really appreciate your being here. If you would raise your right hand and put your left hand on the Bible and repeat after me. I, state your name,
I, Perry Raphael Rank,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
to uphold the Constitution
to uphold the Constitution
of the United States of America,
of the United States of America,
the Constitution
the Constitution
of the State of New York,
of the State of New York,
the rules, regulations, and code
the rules, regulations, and code
of the town of Oyster Bay.
of the town of Oyster Bay.
I further promise
I further promise
to uphold the duties
to uphold the duties
as a member
as a member
of the town of Oyster Bay Ethics Board,
of the town of Oyster Bay's
Ethics Board, with dedication
with dedication
and to the best of my abilities.
and to the best of my abilities.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Rabbi Ray. Would you please say a few words?
Well, I must say that I'm deeply honored and I'm humbled by this appointment. And when the invitation crossed my desk, I was very curious about it and thought I would come in for the interview. And I love the town of Oyster Bay. I love what I see is going on in recent days. And I hope to be a process of making sure that everyone can be proud of our government and proud of our leaders.
Thank you very, very much. Ladies and gentlemen, the newest Ethics Board member, Rabbi Raphael. So now we get right to work.
Thank you, Jim. Thanks for all your help.
Welcome aboard.
Congratulations again.
Resolutions?
So we have polled the board, and if there is nothing else in terms of the startup, I believe we are ready to get started with our first hearing of the day. So would the town clerk, James Altadonna Jr., please call our first hearing?
Sure, it's fire protection, to consider fire protection agreements with East Norwich Volunteer Fire Company Number 1 for the years 2018 and 19.
Good morning, Supervisor, members of the Town Board. This morning's hearing is with respect to the fire protection contracts the Town of Oyster Bay, if they approve the resolution, will enter into with the East Norwich Volunteer Fire Company Number 1. And as you know from the hearing we had 2 weeks ago with respect to the 2017 contract, the East Norwich residents have a setup called a fire protection area. There are some areas of the town where the residents have an actual fire district that has its own tax line, elects its own commissioners. In the residents of East Norwich, the residents have a private fire company, a not-for-profit that provides fire protection services, and the various municipalities contract with the fire company to provide those services to the residents. With respect to the East Norwich Volunteer Fire Company Number 1, they deal with 4 municipalities. The town of Oyster Bay, and their residents constitute approximately, I've got it here, 24.89% of the residents that are covered by the East Norwich Fire Company. The Village of Upper Brookville has 32.83%, the Village of Brookville has 17.59%, and the Village of Muttontown has 24.68%. So the Town of Oyster Bay portion of their fire protection area is the second largest that East Norwich protects. Each year, we do a contract with the fire company. Last week, 2 weeks ago at the last meeting, the board approved payment and a contract with East Norwich for the 2017 calendar year. Here today, we are asking you to consider the 2018 and the 2019 contracts in order to provide some planning and continuity for the fire company as well as for the town and for their residents. The 2017 contract represented a 1.4% increase in not the entire contract cost, just the basic fire and protection costs. It didn't include the cost of the headquarters improvements. The increase was not in LoSAP. It was just in the fire protection costs. The fire company has requested this year an amount not to exceed a 1.5% increase in those basic costs, and again, a maximum of a 1.5% increase in the 2019 costs. Due to a decrease in the LoSAP costs, the 2018 cost to the residents is actually lower than the 2017 cost. The contract amount for 2018 would be an amount not to exceed $307,286.25. The 2019 amount would be an amount not to exceed $311,072.56. This is both 2018 and 2019 are less than the 2017 cost of $313,765.04. I do want to mention to you all that I did a little work of my own last night looking at the tax rates per $100 to see how it affected the residents in various fire protection areas and districts. I will say, to my surprise, I happen to live in Locust Valley, which has a fire district. East Norwich is 40% less than the cost of Locust Valley. So, for instance, the tax rate for $100 of assessed value for those residents in the East Norwich fire protection area is $21, whereas in Locust Valley it happens to be $34. So I think that we could agree that East Norwich is certainly doing a fine job. They're watching their finances because of cost. What they spend is what actually the residents of the town of Oyster Bay are spending. I also want to point out to the board that I have it here somewhere. In 2017, the East Norwich Volunteer Fire Company #1 responded to 851 calls, which is 2.5 to 3 calls a day. So, and they do that. They're all volunteers. They're not paid to do it. Simply what they're asking the town of Oyster Bay to do in this contract is to pay for the costs of the equipment, the training, the facility, and various expenses that go along with that, including insurance. Having said that, we have with us today the attorney for the East Norwich Volunteer Fire Company #1, James Camerata, who can also speak to the contracts if the board has any questions.
I'm just curious, when we were here 2 weeks ago, was it Upper Brookville that was not in agreement with the contract? And has there been any conversations with them, or have they changed their mind?
I think, yeah. If Jim Camerata, the attorney for the fire company, can address that, sure.
Good morning. James Camerata, 53 East Main Street, Oyster Bay, New York. Good morning, Mr. Supervisor, board members. By the way, I want to thank you for 2 weeks ago, you brought up that issue that we're trying to get an intermissible agreement going with the villages, have we done for many years. As a result, I believe, of last board meeting's conversation, there's been some further dialogue with Upper Brookville, and we're confident that we're going to have an intermunicipal agreement to make sense.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm just going to add that that's one reason why the contracted amount is an amount not to exceed, so that if the fire company can come in lower than 1.5%, we can pay that amount as opposed to, but the maximum the town of Oyster Bay residents would pay is an increase of 1.5% in just that emergency, the basic cost of the emergency fire and ambulance services, medical services.
And just to review again, this is here before the town board because New York State mandates that we have the approval, even though they set their own rates, they set their own budget. We have nothing to do with that. We're not responsible for their taxing.
Well, we are let me step back. New York State requires that if a town is going to have a contract with a volunteer fire company, they must have a hearing first. That's one provision of the law. That's why we're here. With respect to we're not taxing, on a tax bill for a resident of East Norwich, because they are not in a fire district, I in Locust Valley am in a fire district. So I actually get a line on my tax bill from a separate taxing entity as a special district, Locust Valley Fire District. For residents of unincorporated Oyster Bay, commonly referred to as East Norwich, if I'm going to be legal and technical, on their town bill, in the various districts, the lines in the town bill, there is one for East Norwich Fire Protection Area. So we are, in fact, taxing the residents of East Norwich for the cost of this contract.
But the management of that fire entity is entirely separate and independent. We don't manage them. We don't manage their budget. We don't manage their...
We do not. You are correct. They are a not-for-profit corporation that manages everything. They have to file tax returns. They have to file all the appropriate statements. The state law has just changed that any contracts that are being considered by a town board after March 1st of this year, the fire districts are required to provide certain financials to the town. We have copies of their latest 990. I have copies of their budget. They have also invited us to participate in their budget discussions going forward so that we have the opportunity to sit down with them this summer as they set their 2019 budget in case we want to raise any concerns at that time on behalf of the taxpayers. And certainly I already know that, Supervisor, that you are going to advise me to attend those meetings on behalf of the residents to make sure that their dollars are guarded and to make sure that they continue to do the right thing for the residents.
Excellent work. We really appreciate your efforts, and I am going to ask council as well as our legal counsel to continue the conversations with all of the village mayors so their voices are heard, so that the residents are fully respected and taken into account of all the villages concerned.
Absolutely,
We will.
Supervisor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions? No? Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did I actually put my appearance on the record? I did? Okay, good. Okay. And I'm just going to point out that once we close this hearing, if the board is in agreement, resolution number, I believe it's 338, is for these two contracts.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any
Thank
other
you.
discussion? All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor.
Is there correspondence on this?
We have affidavits of postings and publications. There is no other correspondence.
Okay, may I have is there any speakers? Anyone would like to be heard on this? Please let the record reflect that no one has signaled or indicated that they'd like to be heard on this. May we have a motion, please?
Supervisor, I'll make a motion that this public hearing be closed and the decision be voted on today.
Oh, second, sorry.
You're not used to that.
No.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it unanimously.
Okay. Now we'll go to the regular action calendar.
Yes, please.
May I have a motion to adopt resolutions number TF 8-18 through resolution number 338? You have multiple speakers.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
All right, so we have our resolutions up. We have a number of speakers I see that have requested to speak on these items. The first will be Paul Molinari of Hicksville.
Supervisor, I also have a question on one of the resolutions.
Sure.
If and when, we can have Paul first or...
Why don't we do that? Come on up, Paul. Good morning. How are you? As always, would you please state your name and address for the record?
Good morning, Mr. Supervisor, Town Board. Paul Molinari, 332 West Nikolai Street, Hicksville, New York. I have just a couple of questions on 314. It's the resolution authorizing commencement of legal proceedings. The Town of Oyster Bay versus All American Recycling of Long Island. My questions are really basic. Why are we pursuing this litigation? What are we looking at as relief from this litigation? Do we need outside counsel for this litigation? Or if we need outside counsel, how much is it going to cost the town?
Thank you, Paul. If you'd kindly take a seat. Matt, would you please join us? could you please start off by stating your presence?
Yes, of course. Matthew Rose, Deputy Town Attorney, Town of Oyster Bay. I'll take the questions in inverse order. There is no cost associated with this action, as there will be no outside counsel. We're handling it in-house, myself and one of the attorneys on staff already. The purpose of the action is to seek, among other forms of relief, an injunction against violations of the town code as relates to maintenance of property, zoning, uses of the property, in that there are nuisance conditions existing on the property having to do with the storage of refuse and recyclable items. Of course, if the plaintiff, having now heard that this action is going to, the defendant having heard that the action is coming, wants to approach us about amicably settling it, we'll entertain those discussions, as that's always preferable to have a negotiated settlement as opposed to litigation, which may protract for an extended period of time. But that's the general contours of this litigation. We're looking to enforce our codes, which of course are designed to protect the quality of life for our residents.
So in short, Matt, we've received complaints from the public?
That's correct.
And we, after inspecting the premises, our inspectors found what?
Among other violations, there are piles of material which are potentially combustible. And of course, the fire risk is of the utmost importance that we abate and
Hasn't this happened in the past?
You're absolutely correct. And
Tell us about that
Yeah,
scenario
I think it was in Queens, and there was a similar situation where a facility was operating a garbage or refuse facility. Fire was created because the materials break down and heat is associated with that breakdown. It spilled over onto neighboring properties, and as you might imagine, there was some significant issues as a result of that fire. And that's the type of harm that we're looking to avoid, among other things.
So we've asked the vendor, or we've asked the property owner to clear up the violations and make it safer, and apparently that didn't happen?
Well, yes, and I think it's worth pointing out that before we get to this point where we're considering or contemplating litigation, there are multiple efforts of outreach to try to secure voluntary compliance with the town code. We really don't seek to bring litigation frequently. Voluntary compliance is the goal, but there are instances when that can't be achieved, voluntary compliance can't be achieved, and we're forced to pursue our remedies in court.
So as we have seen proven by other circumstances, other events, there's a fire risk, there's a general danger to the public. We're asking them to comply. They haven't yet. And beginning this action is an effort to get them to comply, to get them to follow the code, to get them to provide a more safe environment for our residents.
That's correct. And sometimes with the urging of a man or woman in black robes, we can get that compliance a little bit more quickly than otherwise.
By that, you obviously mean a judge.
A judge, that's right.
Okay, in a proceeding. And there is no additional cost to the taxpayers because we're doing this in-house with our own legal team.
In-house with our legal team and our staff in code enforcement who will serve as the witnesses to the offenses.
Councilwoman, I believe, has a question, or was it answered? Not on. Okay. Okay, does anyone have a question on this? All right, I believe Mr. Molinari's questions were all answered. Thank you very, very much, Matt.
Supervisor, could I ask my question?
Certainly.
I just wanted to get some information on resolution number 327, which is the resolution authorizing a radiological survey at the Syosset former landfill. I've received multiple inquiries from residents on this. I think the general question, and I'm going to put it in the most vernacular terms that I can, is, hey, we came to this meeting and we were asking for independent testing and a big study, and you guys are doing this, $5,000. What's happening? What is this? Is this the independent study? And my understanding is no. This was something that we had previously and probably in the course of business do from time to time periodically.
Yes.
Can you just clarify that for the residents?
Okay.
Not just for me.
So, in regards to the Miller Place property in Syosset, we are planning on approving payment for testing performed on April 24th and 26th on the property. While there's no requirement for this testing, the town believes that this testing and future testing is something very, very important to get to the facts, to bring assurances to the public, and to continue to investigate this area. I'm also told the Syosset School District has retained a firm to perform testing, and we look forward to their findings. We will continue testing at this site, and I will briefly state that we listened and heard the concerns of our residents last Tuesday night. It was very loud and clear. I am unable to go too far into details. We'll be hearing from some residents who would like to speak about this, but this is not the end of our testing at this site.
Okay, so so those are my two questions. This is not meant to substitute for the request of independent testing.
Correct.
And will the results of this test be made available for the
Yes.
residents online? Yes? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Supervisor.
Our next speaker is Sean McCaffrey. Good morning, Sean. How are you?
Morning. I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Good. Would you start off by giving us your name and address for the record, please?
My name is Sean McCaffrey. My address is P.O. Box 346 in Medford, New York, 11763. My family and I had lived in Syosset for over 30 years. And I am here, and I'll speak on something later, but yes, about the testing and radiation. My understanding from having lived here for so long and having gone to the school that's adjacent to it for 2 years, despite protesting it to the principal, my family, and everyone else, I went there, is that I had heard from many people as a youngster that had driven their motorbikes and whatnot on the grounds that they had seen ground bubbling. I've more recently come to hear from people directly who saw barrels there with a green sort of liquid oozing from there. I found that many of the testing locations on the outskirts, for whatever reason, 3 separate pumps in one location, they can't get a reading because the pumps are down. So all 3 pumps are down at one time. I don't know how likely that is. I know that a lot of work was done in the immediate environs there, both in the industrial park and on Robbins Lane, by companies that were involved as defense contractors. So the potential for them having done things there involving radioactive things are very possible. The problem that's occurring in Bethpage at Grumman, where the U.S. government, the Navy, lied for years as Grumman as to what their pollen was. So while it was smaller, they didn't address it. Now that it's large and growing, they're addressing it. So life, health, a lot of money, time is going to be wasted there. Syosset has an inordinate amount of cancers, a lot of exotic cancers. I did a very cursory survey on a few social media sites, less than 1,000 people. I came up with over 300 different forms of cancer. Is it directly attributed to that? I don't know. My experience as a New York City police officer is that there were 300 attempted murders in a place as small as Syosset, Jericho, Plainview, Woodbury. That really has to be looked at. Maybe there's a magic bullet to fix it, but you don't even know where the bullets that are taking the people out and injuring and killing many are coming from. Syosset was, to a great extent, an area of farms, so DDT and other things we utilize. I'm not saying that it's definitely that site, but to put more families there to do anything without the testing, which is now being done. It was supposed to be independent. It's not. That was just announced now, so I won't even address that. But this sort of testing does need to be done. It shouldn't be that hard to get done. And the cost to address it later after Syosset Park or whatever is going to be done there is going to be prohibitively higher. It's very high now. The loss of life is crazy. As an example, I lost my sister, my next door neighbor, lost 3 daughters. All 4 of the daughters were afflicted with various cancers. The husband was left, lost the cancer. The people in my backyard neighbor, mother and father were afflicted with cancer, skip a house cancer, go across the street down 2 houses, cancer. The people next to the people with all the children and husband afflicted cancer. So these are houses that I could all from my home, my childhood home, hit with a stone. So the testing is very good. The radiation testing is something new. I hope it gets done. And I really hope that it gets done by an outside independent group that have nothing to do with the local politics here, both in the state, the city, local, and everything else. Thank you for your time.
First of all, we'd like to express our condolences for the loss of your sister and your other loved ones. Were you with us this past Tuesday night at Syosset High School? Were you there?
I was, and I spoke, yes.
You were there and you spoke. Okay. As we said then, we continue to hear the public loud and clear. We will clearly respond to the public's wishes. We will continue for testing of a variety of testing. The school district will be doing testing, and we're not done. We're just beginning the testing. But we want to make this very clear to you and to all of the residents. We represent you, and we hear you loud and clear.
Testing is alleged to have been done in the past, yet there are emails from, I believe it was the EPA, stating that it was never done off-site, but it was assured by the builders that it was done off-site. It's not just the testing that needs to be done, but who does it, that they have no ties to anything involved with anything.
We hear you loud and clear, as we did the other night in Syosset, as we have with all of the letters and the phone calls and the responses the public has given us. We hear you loud and clear. We represent the public. We will continue to represent the public, and the residents have spoken, and we have heard them.
And they're all mentioning independent testing. That's not been said here. It's been said testing, that a small contract, which I'm not going to address, has been in place.
Just so we're getting the facts to the public, we hear you loud and clear, and we will continue to respond in the way the public has asked. Okay? Sir, there's only so much we can say. The application hasn't come before us, and we will not say anything that will hurt the town's position and the residents' position. And I know you do not want us going down a road which hurts the public's position.
Of course not. I'm not asking you to say anything, just to hear it out.
We have heard you.
For all the people that have died, it has to be said again.
We have heard you loud and clear. We have heard the public loud and clear. We represent you, and I thank you very much for coming here today.
Thank you for your time.
Our next speaker is Mr. Christopher D. Filippo. On the same subject, I believe.
Yes, sir.
Could you start off by giving us your name and address for the record, please?
Absolutely. Christopher D. Filippo, 75 Kerry Way, Woodbury, New York. I'm here today before the board, Mr. Saladino, and town government, and it's nice to see you again, Mr. Saladino. I thank you for coming to my hometown, Syosset, and speaking there on May 1st. I spoke there as speaker number 2, and you were nice enough to come to our fire department, and I heard you participated in some music activities, which I missed.
And we had a chance to talk more about what you're here to talk to us today about at the fire department as we continue to go out to the community in Syosset to listen very attentively in an effort to fully represent the residents of Syosset and all of the residents of the town of Oyster Bay, which we can assure you we will continue to do.
Right. So I heard earlier that the Resolution 327 wasn't about the independent testing, but you did touch upon something that the school district is doing some testing. I'm not really sure what that testing is. Maybe you could talk about it as we go through this. But, one of the things that I'm concerned about is that well, it may not have to be done, okay? Because there was a meeting actually done last night at the Syosset School Board. I happen to be a school board trustee. I am not speaking as a school board trustee here today, okay? But last evening, I, along with my 7 other trustees and colleagues, all spoke in open meeting and opposed the Syosset Park for the obvious reasons of health and safety.
You realize this is not a hearing on the application?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. And, well, it talks to the testing, and that, to me, it may not be necessary. I mean, we've spoken as, from the community about that. So, I just wanted to inform you about how the school district has indicated that and has communicated that to its residents and community. Thank you for your time.
And Mr. DiFilippo, we want to also thank you for your work as an emergency responder and a firefighter. You clearly have the best interest of the public in mind when you go out to fight a fire, when you go out to an emergency at a home, at a business. We thank you for your commitment and dedication as a firefighter.
And Mr. Saladino, I would like to continue to do that. And if, again, we have such a large amount of people infused into that community, it might be possible we can no longer be a volunteer fire department. Because, fire departments that are supported by volunteers need more volunteers, and a lot of people don't want to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning. They'll say, well, charge me another $500 in taxes or whatever.
We have a fire responders committee that has been meeting, and one of the issues that we're working on is assisting our fire departments in getting the word out, getting new members, letting young people, people of all ages, realize the many benefits, whether it's the tuition benefit through Nassau Community College. There's a long list of benefits, and certainly the feeling that you've done so much to protect our residents. We have a wonderful, wonderful relationship with the Syosset Fire Department, the Syosset School District, and with you.
All right, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Mr. Matthew Meng. Good morning, sir. How are you today?
I'm fine. I'm very well. Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Supervisor and the board. My name is Matthew Meng, 6481 Old Northern Boulevard, East Norwich. I'm here as the president of the Civic Association of the great unincorporated hamlet of East Norwich, and my concern is your resolution 312 regarding a site plan. I'm unfamiliar at the procedure of how this is conducted, but I wish to remind the board that this is a landmark and that perhaps in consideration of the modification of the site plan, that it go before the landmark hearing. One of the concerns I have is if you go by that area in the evening, you will see that the streets are quite loaded with cars as well as the parking lot.
Are those cars in any way, are they very close to people's homes? From their
there's
residences,
just a couple residents at the dead-end street to the west of the main Inn 1 North. It is primarily a drive-through street, Old Jericho Turnpike. However, I think one of the issues that you have with landmark buildings, such as Snouters here, they have difficulty reusing the landmark because of the lack of parking. And here we have...
I'm sorry. I don't exactly understand what that means. They have difficulty reusing...
Well, if you... Snouters, for example, is a landmark. And how you reuse that building for an up-to-date function, keeping the aesthetics of a landmark building, but at the same time having something affordable that you can operate within that landmark to cover the taxes and the average daily expenses of the operation. Here you have a property of 1.5 acres that still does not have sufficient parking. And as I understand, the corporation, 1 North, has use of the evening parking lots of the commercial buildings adjacent to it. So the additional parking might not be there. If it is there, it would only be there with some sort of additional agreement, as I understand it, with the commercial buildings. And as a landmark, I think that the commission should separately review this, as if we're going to treat this landmark with a variance or a site plan modification, why not other landmarks that might be challenged by not having sufficient parking?
Well, my understanding is that this is all part of the process, and there are multiple levels which the residents should sleep well at night, knowing that the process will provide for numerous levels. Today is not a hearing, is only a vote on an amendment so that it can proceed to the Zoning Board of Appeals, where they will have a hearing, and you and all of the residents throughout the town will have an opportunity to come and be heard. And they'll provide, you can ask your questions, and I assume they'll be providing some expert testimony. And we appreciate you coming forward, and we appreciate this relationship.
I appreciate you clarifying that. So it would go before the ZBA.
That's what I am told, but let's just confirm that so everybody hears it.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, please let the record reflect that Commissioner Macarone of the Department of Planning and Development has confirmed that this will have to go to the Zoning Board of Appeals for an open hearing where you and all of the residents will have an opportunity to speak and to be heard, where you can provide expert testimony, we assume they would as well.
And would you know procedurally whether it goes also before the Landmark Commission?
Commissioner?
No, it would not.
But it was already reviewed by them at some point through the construction phase earlier.
Right. My understanding is that this does not involve any structural changes.
Commissioner, if I may just hold you, let's bring the commissioner up. I thought it was just going to be a quick answer, but let's bring her up so that we're doing this transparently.
Good morning, Elizabeth Macarone, Commissioner of Planning and Development. Just for a frame of reference and a little history, back in 2015, this application went before the Landmarks Commission and was approved by that commission. In 2016, a resolution was before the town board to amend the site plan to allow for the construction of the restaurant pursuant to the Landmarks Commission. And on that site plan, there was a rear patio that was both on the Landmarks presentation of the plan submitted to the Landmarks, as well as to the town board back in 2016. The town board adopted that resolution in January of 2017 to allow for an increase in occupancy to 565 persons. After that resolution was adopted by this board, the applicant went to the Zoning Board of Appeals, and in March of 2017, the Zoning Board of Appeals granted an amended site plan approval for the increase in occupancy and the reduction of off-street parking. On the actual site, the property has 54 parking spaces on the restaurant site. Pursuant to that Zoning Board of Appeals hearing, the applicant had demonstrated that he had lease agreements, and I think some of you will remember that from the granting resolution, for neighboring properties. At the time of the 565 permitted occupancy, the applicant was required to provide 188 parking spaces. 54 were on site, and the other remaining balance of the 188 was on adjoining properties. At that point, it was granted. They came to the town of Oyster Bay. We issued building permits for the renovations and so forth. After the CO was issued for the property, the outdoor patio, the applicant came back to the town requesting to now put outdoor tables, fire pits, and couches on this patio. The review from our public assembly inspector indicated that an additional 100 people could theoretically be seated or in a standing type capacity on this patio. So the occupancy now goes from 565 that was approved by this board and the Zoning Board of Appeals to the new occupancy of 665.
Just going to stop you right there because I believe you said goes to. We don't know that
Right,
yet
right,
because
right.
they haven't had the hearing and we have no idea the outcome.
Right, exactly, but that's now the occupancy before you today is 565. So the parking requirements now go up because of the additional 100 occupants. So the new parking requirements for an occupancy of a restaurant with 665 occupants is 222 spots. They do meet the 222 spots with the 54 on site and the adjoining lease agreements. So this board, what's before the board today is the use to allow them to go to the 665
The
and to amend.
mechanism to get the hearing, correct?
Well, no, there's no hearing, it's just a resolution before
Hearing
this board.
before the zoning board, I
Right,
meant.
but it would be the resolution before this board to amend the site plan to allow for the use to increase, subject to them going to the Zoning Board of Appeals for the parking variance.
But to make it clear,
Yeah, what would trigger the ZBA hearing if they have enough parking? They don't need a variance.
Well, it was an amended parking, there was a prior Zoning Board of Appeals resolution going back, I believe, to the 1980s for reduction of off-street parking. Because remember, they only have 54 on-site. They still need to demonstrate before the board that they have additional parking on the adjoining properties. The one thing that Mr. Meng did mention is that they are parking. We've received his complaint, and we have noticed they are parking along Old Jericho Turnpike.
I'll add that I've been past there. It is crazy sometimes.
Right, so we will be investigating that as well. I know the attorney for the applicant is here. The whole purpose of them acquiring the lease agreements is so that the valet parkers will park the cars in the adjoining properties. Now, Old Jericho Turnpike is a state road, so we do not regulate no parking and so forth, but I have spoken to Deputy Commissioner Bishop, and we will be notifying New York State and the Police Department regarding the parking along Old Jericho Turnpike, that it should be enforced. And that will become a subject of the Zoning Board of Appeals hearing, that they'll have to demonstrate that they should be parking in the parking lots that they've acquired these lease agreements for.
Thank you,
Commissioner,
Commissioner.
just to be clear, though, that is going to be addressed, the whole parking issue is going to be addressed by the ZBA.
Absolutely.
That's not before us.
That's correct.
We're not voting
On
on this in
on
any
the
way.
parking, right.
Okay.
Commissioner.
But what is it that we are voting on?
The amended
The amended site plan.
Tables.
Allowing the
patio.
patio
This is just
to
the
be
tables on
used for seats. The patio was on the prior granting resolution, but did not show seats. Now it does show all the seats.
Commissioner, in regards to the additional parking, my understanding is that there's an agreement with Nassau County, with the Malcolm House?
There is, one of the lease agreements does pertain to the Malcolm House.
Know the duration of that agreement?
I do not, but perhaps the attorney does, who's here.
Thank you.
What is the actual scope of the landmarks committee with regard to the use of the building and the parking? Do they have anything to do with the parking, or is it just the building?
No, it was the building and the facades that are viewed from the streets. So this patio is all the way behind the property. It's on grade with the seats. So there's no action before the Landmarks Commission, because the patio was there when it went before the Landmarks as part of the entire site plan.
Any other questions for the commissioner? Thank you. Would the counsel for the applicant please identify themselves? Well, I'm going to ask you and Mr. Meng to go outside while we conduct our hearing so that more of Mr. Meng's questions can be answered, questions from the community can be answered, and that would be the appropriate place to take care of that. We want to continue to have an open dialogue between you and the Civic Association and the applicant. As we all realize, the more communication, the better. All right?
We'll do that.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other speakers on this particular resolution? Okay. Yes?
Concerning the Syosset landfill?
No. No, it's not concerning that at all. And we have one last speaker on the resolutions, Mr. McKenna. It's okay, he's quite used to holding it and speaking. Good morning, Mr. McKenna, how are you today?
Good morning, Mr. Supervisor. I'm well. Could I possibly see the clock?
Sam setting it.
Thank you. I have more than 3 resolutions, so I get 10 minutes. Okay, great. Good morning, Mr. Supervisor, Town Board. First off, I want to thank you for having Mr. Simon, Lenny Simon, run the hearing. I thought he did an excellent job, and I appreciate everyone's attention, and we're happy to help to fill the room. Before I get to that hearing, I just want to comment on Resolution 326. I think, and congratulations to the rabbi for becoming a member of the Ethics Board. I don't know whether that's going to allow the Ethics Board to deliberate yet. I don't know if it has enough members yet.
It will.
Okay. One of the first orders of business for the Ethics Board, and I plan on getting that to them today in writing, is on 326, which has to do with Berkman, Hennick, Peterson, the law firm that the town is continuing to, or giving additional monies to. That law firm is, I'm not sure if it's owned or Mr. Joseph Mondello, the head of the Republican Party, is a member or possibly a partner of that law firm, and I'm not sure if that's an ethical matter. So I just want to bring that to the board's attention if you're not aware of it. Moving on to the resolution on Syosset Park 328. You say that you heard the residents loud and clear. You received a letter from, or the public received a communication from the Syosset School Board that specifically requests independent testing by a firm outside of Long Island, New York, outside the political grip, especially of the county. You've heard the residents, dozens of them, ask for independent testing by firms outside of the county of New York State's political grip. Yet, and you just said that you don't want to take the town and the public down a path. We feel that by you selecting H2M as the company to start us down this path is shocking. It's shocking after everything that you've heard. I'd like to find out from you somehow. We'd like to know who decides to pick that company and propose that to the board. Who decides that? The reason that I ask that is the Department of Environmental Resources of the town is an extremely critical department for the public and for the town. And I would assume that, or think, or hope that that department would be the one to bring forth the firm or firms. And we know that that's not the case, because we have a communication in writing yesterday from the Deputy Commissioner of the Environmental Resources Department when asked a question by another resident about H2M. In writing, he said that he knew nothing about it. And if you look at the backup that you've put forth on this resolution, you started this, or somebody started this process. That's why I asked that we deserve to know who is the brains behind this. You started this process on April the 24th, where obviously I've been communicating about independent testing for over a year now. Councilman Kashignano, in writing, requested independent testing to former Supervisor Venditto, and I also brought that to your attention when you came on board and everyone else. So you've known about the request for independent testing for a long time. But fast forward, on April 24th, you decided that you were going to do some type of radiological testing, knowing that there's a hearing on Syosset Park on May the 1st. At the point that you decided that, let me finish. At the point that you decided that, at that point, knowing there's a hearing, the hearing should have been stopped dead in the water, because that proves that, let me finish, that proves that the DEIS that has been accepted by the town board, it's not complete. It's not a complete environmental impact statement, because you've admitted in writing that you're going to do radiological testing on the site. So at that time, you should say, hey, let's stop this DEIS process until we get the results of this radiological testing. It's just common sense. The DEIS is incomplete. It should be stopped dead in the water. Why move down, take the town and the public down a road of a process when all the facts are not in the report yet?
I'm sorry, can we pause him for a second, Jim?
You know
I'm
what?
sorry.
I don't know how much you want this to go on and on. There's already some points being brought up that are not factual.
That a DEIS is never complete because it's not an FEIS. The FEIS is the complete document. Just like a point of information. A DEIS is a fluid document.
We are
until it
not
becomes-
speeding up this process.
I understand that, but it's very, very important information. It's probably the most important, if not the most important information that should at least be in the preliminary or whatever you want to call it. It's something that, why have the consultants, why have the developer, VHB, all these consultants exert and spend all this money thinking that they have a good chance at moving forward when the results of this testing can change everything? Aside from the fact, well, I'm not going to go there, but I have communicated to a town official a couple days ago, Councilwoman Alessia, and you say you heard us loud and clear. I have written, we have a community board that we have offered to provide to the town the names of 1, 2, 3, whatever is legal, firms that are outside of Long Island in New York for you guys to pick. And if you heard us loud and clear, how are you picking a firm without talking to us? And I just want to point out that H2M, and this is something else that the new ethics board can consider, H2M has an inherent conflict of interest in doing what you're asking them to do for a few reasons. They are working for the developer on the same project. They're working for the developer on this project already. They're hired by the Syosset School District to do a traffic study on this same project.
How is it a conflict? Are you saying that the Syosset School District is somehow in cahoots with the developer?
No, I didn't say that.
Okay. Why don't you do this?
I have a minute and 43 seconds left. Let me just
I
finish.
appreciate you giving those
finish.
names. Okay.
The H2M right now is involved in the Plainview Water District matter that relates to the pinhole leaks. We have very strong evidence that we don't trust H2M. We have evidence that there's some cover-up going on the pinhole leaks. H2M is not an independent company outside Nassau County. How you could put them in this position to start this important project is just going to further infuriate the public. And I want to close with, if you heard us, we have a committee that you promised us a meeting a year ago. We tried to set that meeting up a year ago with Andrew Rothstein, and we've gotten nowhere. We have a committee. We want to meet. True. We want to meet, and we want to provide you with information that you are unaware of. We have proof.
Please provide
we have
the
proof
information.
that the town knew about radioactivity on this land from the prior administration.
Please provide the information.
We have provided it to the authorities.
Okay, so what I suggest is you meet with the commissioner on this, or even
Who is
better,
driving this? Which commissioner?
Why don't you meet with Mr. Scalera, provide the information we want to look at?
We can't provide the information until we sit down and we have a meeting and we feel that you really are listening to us. Thank you very much.
Mr. McKenna, it's for the record, that was Resolution 327?
Yes.
27, okay.
I just want to clarify one more time, because I
Yes.
know I asked it before. This testing, the testing that is before us, I'm not going to say it's unrelated, but this is not meant
Joe.
to substitute for the independent testing that the community is asking for.
Correct.
This is a preliminary, a small, there's no way, in my opinion, the town attorney's probably going to get up and tackle me, but I don't see how a project the size of Syosset Park, independent testing that costs $5,000 would be nearly sufficient. So I just want to emphasize to you.
Why don't we do it the right way?
Mr. McKenna.
Because this was a preliminary, and everything has to be done.
Preliminary means they're going to say there is or there isn't, so that you decide whether you're going to do it. We're not going to be fooled. It's being done incorrectly. It's being done by a company that has a conflict of interest.
Mr. McKenna, please provide us the information that you have spoken about. I would be happy
to if you have a meeting with us and we sit down and we know who is driving this process.
It sounds like quid pro quo.
We don't know
Mr.
who is
Scalera,
driving
could
the
you please
process.
raise your hand?
We have a commissioner of environmental that has been
Mr.
nowhere to be
McKenna.
found, that does
Mr.
not
McKenna.
respond to any emails.
Excuse
we
me,
have
sir.
a deputy commissioner who promised me 2 weeks ago he was
Mr.
going to respond to
McKenna.
emails. He has not
You
responded
see
to
the
them.
man raising his hand. Would you please?
I want to speak to the environmental department. I don't want to speak to an attorney. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you. Let the record reflect that some of the things that were said today clearly mischaracterize what is currently going on with this situation. Okay, Mr. McKenna. So that is our speakers on the resolutions. Ms. Walsh, would you like to step forward? We haven't.
No, Ms. Walsh
She's
wants to
going to
speak.
speak on the resolutions. That's okay. That's okay. Why don't you start off by giving us your full name and address, please,
Hello.
for the record.
Hello, my name is Teresa Walsh, formerly from 80 West Jericho Turnpike in Syosset. I just jotted some stuff down last night about 11:30 concerning some facts that obviously are changing, so it's a changing situation, and just some things that came across my mind that I just jotted down to just bring up. Good morning, my name is Teresa Walsh. For those who know me, I have a master's degree in accounting and taxation and received a Women's High Average from CW Post. I'm a member of the Association of Certified Fraud Examiners and continue to audit classes in forensic accounting and accounting information systems. I would like to say how pleased I am that the town board has listened to the many residents of or from Syosset that came out to give testimony and state their concerns in regard to the Syosset Park development, DEIS. As you all know, I have been saying for many years that there is a cancer cluster in the area. As I stated in 2015, a group of residents who have lived through the same noticed this as well and fought to have the land cleaned up. Those residents are no longer with us, and the cancer cluster continues to fester. I understand the town has attempted to clean up the zero wire site in Syosset landfill, but you have to understand we grow wiser with time and find that what we thought would work, say back 20, 30 years ago, does not work at this point. I have read the Atomic Energy Standards Report from the 50s to current times. Back in the Eisenhower years, it was common practice for radiation to be returned to nature. That means the ground. That means the ground. SASA was a hub for defense contractors during our country's war efforts. All of the chemicals the companies were using were dumped into the ground. Waste such as PCBs have 25,000-year life. That said, we need to be very careful with how we would proceed to protect our residents, as you all stated you are doing. Since we have worked together to come this far, and I want to say again how pleased I am asking that we, the Syosset TOB Community Association, have the right independent third-party uncorrupted consultants. And I'm not saying anybody is corrupted. I'm just saying we continue the dialogue we're having now in get-together. I think we're doing great, honestly. I'm very proud.
Thank you. We're proud to work with you.
You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
As long as you pass a resolution allowing so, we, the association, will put you in touch with people that we'd like to maybe bring up and discuss or work with you. As we move away and continue to move away from the misdealings that everybody was left with from John Venditto and Leonard Genova, we must in turn create proper controls and awarding contracts to contractors. It's like it keeps coming. It's an ever-growing, not situation, it's just when things move along, procedures change. It's not nothing bad, it's not nothing different. Just to try to wrap up fast, there was an article how Nassau County vendors have bypassed the new campaign contribution law. Paul LaRocca wrote that there's many companies that donate to political parties and so on and so forth. And moving away from that,
Ms. Welsh, here in the town of Oyster Bay, we adhere
Right.
to the law, 100%.
I know. I just
Okay.
jotted this down. And,
I understand that, but your time is up. We have heard. We will continue to listen to you. We heard you last week, and I
Thank you.
really appreciate your coming out.
Thank you.
We'll continue to encourage you to provide us with information, and we will continue to listen to you and all of the residents. Nothing will be rushed.
I appreciate it.
And there will be full testing that takes place at this site.
Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. Okay, do we have correspondence?
No correspondence, but we do have a motion made by Councilman Muscarella and a seconded by Councilwoman Alessia, and now we're ready for the vote.
Okay, would you please proceed with the vote?
Yep. On the vote, Supervisor Saladino,
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
1 minute, we're voting for all the resolutions?
You're voting on Resolution TF 8 through 18 through 338. 339 we still have to address. Okay, and then we also have a remove from the table that we're going to address separately.
I'll vote aye on all except for 329. I will abstain.
Hold on, 329, abstain, okay. Councilman McEnone is absent. Councilwoman Alessia.
Jim, just so I'm clear what we're voting on, the 280, 593, and 95 are not before us yet, is that correct?
339 is not before you, and 285 is not before you. No, that is correct.
Hang on, just bear with me a moment.
Yeah, take your time.
None of the removed from the tables are before us.
That's correct. There's only going to be one, and that's 285. The other two are not being
Okay.
called.
So I'm a no on 310,
Hold on.
26,
You're a no on 310, okay.
326, 329,
No on 326. No on 329.
no on 330,
No on 330.
aye as to the rest.
Okay. Councilwoman Johnson.
I vote aye.
Okay. Councilman Ambrodo.
I'm abstaining on 326, and I'm aye on all the rest.
Hold on, 326. Councilman Han.
Aye on all but 336, I vote no.
Okay, here we go. I need to clarify.
Excuse me, just a correction on that. That was not a 336. I'm looking for the,
You said 326, right?
No,
I want to correct that, though. Bear with me.
You're voting no on 312?
It's no on 312, aye on the rest, inclusive of 336.
Okay. So aye on the rest, just to confirm, no on 312, aye on all the rest.
That is correct. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Motions to adopt Resolution TF 8-18 through 309 passes with 6 ayes. 310 passes with 5 ayes and 1 nay. 311 passes with 6 ayes. P 312 passes with 5 ayes and 1 nay. 313 through 325 passes with 6 ayes. 326 passes with 4 ayes, 1 nay, and 1 abstention. 327 and 328 passes with 6 ayes. 329 passes with 4 ayes, 1 abstention, and 1 nay. 330 passes with 5 ayes and 1 nay. 331 through 338 passes with 6 ayes. Okay, now we have a few more resolutions to go through. May I have a motion to resuspend the rules and add the following resolution number 339, 2018? On the motion?
So moved.
Need a second? Is there a question?
No. I'm sorry, Jim.
That's okay. I need a second on 339.
Rebecca.
I just want to look at what it is, Jeff, now.
Okay.
This is just to put it before us, correct?
Just to put it before you, correct?
Second.
Okay. Motion made by Councilman Muscarella, seconded by Councilwoman Alessia. Let me just read the resolution. It's a resolution directing the town clerk to publish a notice of hearing to consider an application from Island Properties LLC, fee owner, for a special use permit for permission to place a portable bar for the on-site consumption of alcohol beverages on a parcel of land located on Light Industry LI zone of the town of Oyster Bay and located at 5 Bay Avenue, Oyster Bay, New York. Hearing date, May 22nd, 2018. Okay, on the vote, Supervisor Saladino?
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella?
Aye.
Councilman McEnon is absent. Councilwoman Alessia?
Aye.
Councilwoman Johnson?
Aye.
Councilman Ambroto?
Absolutely, aye.
And Councilman Han.
Aye.
Motion to resuspend the rules and add Resolution 339 passes with 6 ayes. Okay, now we're going to have a motion to adopt this resolution, but I want to know if we'll just take it. Do you want to see if there's anybody that wants to speak on it prior?
Certainly. Is there anyone who would like to be heard on Resolution 339? Let the record indicate that no one has come forward.
Okay. May I have a motion to adopt Resolution number 339? On the motion.
So moved.
Motion made by Council Muscarella. On the second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman Alessia. On the vote, Supervisor Saladino?
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella?
Aye.
Councilman McEnon is absent. Councilwoman Alessia?
Aye.
Councilwoman Johnson?
Aye.
Councilman Ambroto?
Aye.
And Councilman Han.
Aye.
Motion to adopt Resolution number 339 passes with 6 ayes. Now we have one more left. May I have a motion to remove from the table Resolution number 285, which was tabled on April 24th, 2018. On the motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Muscarella, seconded by Councilwoman Alessia. On the vote, Supervisor Saladino?
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella?
Aye.
Councilman McEnroe is absent. Councilwoman Alessia?
Vote nay.
Councilwoman Johnson?
I vote aye.
Councilman Embrodo?
Aye.
And Councilman Hand?
Nay.
Okay. Motion to remove from the table resolution number 285 passes with 4 ayes and 2 nays.
Oh, I thought that was on the vote, Jim. Doesn't
No,
matter
no,
if that's
this is
done,
just
that's
to-
fine.
So you're going to say, all right, it doesn't matter, okay. Now, do you want to have any comment on this?
Is there anyone who would like to be heard on this resolution? Again, resolution
Number 285.
285. Please let the record reflect that no one has indicated that they'd like to be heard. You may proceed.
Okay, may I have a motion to adopt resolution number 285? On the motion,
So moved.
motion made by Councilman Muscarella. I need a second.
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman Alessia. On the vote, Supervisor Saladino?
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella?
Aye.
Councilman McEnroe is absent. Councilwoman Alessia?
Nay.
Councilwoman Johnson?
Aye.
Councilman Alberto?
Aye.
And Councilman Hand.
Nay.
Motion to adopt resolution number 285 passes with 4 ayes and 2 nays. Your calendar is complete. We're ready for-
Thank you. We will now have to break for executive session, and may I have a motion, please?
Supervisor, I move that this town board go into executive session for the purpose of discussions regarding proposed, pending, or current litigation.
Second.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. We'll be taking a break for executive session and then reconvening when we're done.
I'm not ready for prime
Thank
time.
you.
I can't get used to the,
Okay. Councilman Muscarella, would you give us an update?
Supervisor, I make a motion to close the executive session. No action has been taken.
Second.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it.
Supervisor, I make a motion to close the meeting.
Second.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Well, we thank you for attending today's meeting of the Oyster Bay Town Board, and we thank our stenographer as well. And now that we're done with your services for today, we will begin with our public comment. Paul Molinari is our first speaker. Good afternoon, Mr. Molinari. How are you today?
Good afternoon, Mr. Supervisor, and town board members. Paul Molinari, 332 West Nikolai Street, Hicksville. I have a lot of things on my mind, but I'm going to start off with two of my favorite topics is the downtown Hicksville and parking. You know, now that the DRI report has been submitted to the state, it's really time for the town board to move on to zoning changes. You know, many people worked very hard to get these proposed changes before the town. And I'm afraid the longer it takes, you know, the public is fickle. Right now you have the support for the proposed changes. You may not have it in 6 months to a year. So I strongly recommend that the town move forward with this as quickly as possible. And I would like to hear what the proposed schedule is for when a hearing would be. The second issue is parking. I'm a walker. I walk all over from my neighborhood, wherever I can. I had the opportunity to go to the post office and walk through the parking lots. Now, I already discussed this with Commissioner McCaffrey, but I want to bring it up anyway. In one parking lot, I noticed 12 cars with no parking stickers. Those are non-residents taking up resident spots. I think you have to step up enforcement in that. If you want to, looking at ways to increase parking in Hicksville, step up the enforcement. You already addressed, I was going to ask about the Inspector General. I appreciate that, you gave that update with the status of it is. I was also pleased to see Hicksville teachers be recognized. I would make a suggestion that when you're doing these type of recognitions, maybe you should put it on your website the day before so that community members could come. I'm a graduate of Hicksville High School. And I recognized the principal. I couldn't place him, but I happened to see him at my 50th high school reunion. We did a walkthrough at the high school, and he gave a very presentation on what they propose and changes in the high school. So I recommend that when you're recognizing certain people, that you try to publicize it in advance so the community has an opportunity to come out and show support for these individuals. The last thing that's really, I'm very pleased that you made the selections for the Ethics Board, and the Ethics Board will be up and running. I'm just kind of disappointed that non-selectees are not notified prior to people being sworn in. And I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our next speaker will be Sean McCaffrey. Can we just send someone outside to see if Mr. McCaffrey is out there so we can give him an opportunity?
He signed out of the building.
Okay. Our next speaker will be Christopher DiFilippo. He did speak on the resolutions. Just want to make this available. And can you see if Mr. DiFilippo is outside anywhere so we give him an opportunity should he be maybe out making a call? Our next speaker is Bob Fryer. We're here to listen to you and to listen to everything you'd like to say to us today, so long as it's respectful and professional.
Okay. So one of the things I wanted to address was specifically also Councilman Muscarella. I was hoping he'd have an opportunity. He's been talked about or written about in the paper. There have been people that have called for his resignation. Not me, but I wanted to at least give him the opportunity to publicly address the allegations that have come out in the federal corruption trial.
I think there were two town board members.
Correct. The other one's not here, but I thought he was here.
Them are here right at this moment.
Right. Well, I was going to ask Mr. Muscarella that, but he specifically had been asked. He specifically was mentioned twice by two different witnesses. So I would encourage, if it truly is a new day in Oyster Bay, that we get a public explanation of that.
Standard & Poor's made that very clear.
Standard & Poor's made that clear, huh?
Yes.
Okay. Well, speaking along the lines of New Day in Oyster Bay, I didn't even realize, and maybe I should have dug deeper, but I would have hoped that the supervisor would have at least disclosed that. But when you hired a law firm to represent the town in the telecommunications case, you hired Joe Mondello's law firm. That doesn't speak of independence. Today, you just approved more money for Joe Mondello's law firm.
Mr. Fryer.
I'm talking.
This firm is an expert. Wait a second.
I'm talking.
This firm,
if you want to address.
This firm is an expert, and we have already testified to that fact. So you're already starting with your political accusations. We're not here to talk politics. If you want to talk about the firm's resume, the firm's expertise in assisting our residents, because you've come here in the past stating that you wanted to see relief for the residents of Syosset as it relates to these repeater towers. We're not going to get into a long conversation, because of litigation. But you're not here to make accusations and be political. If you would like to address this board about issues of the day as it relates to them governmentally, we're here to listen to you. Please proceed.
Okay, like I said, so I guess it was just a coincidence that Joe Mondello happens to be an attorney at that law firm. Just like it was a coincidence that Mr. Ballas is the next-door neighbor of Greg
Mr.
Carmen.
Fryer, have you even
stop the
seen
clock.
Mr. No, wait a second. Don't touch it. I'm controlling the clock. Sir,
No, he controls.
have you even seen Mr. Ballas's resume?
Absolutely.
And after looking at his resume, you don't think he's qualified?
No, not at all.
That's an outrageous statement that's purely political.
And it's not, you hired the next-door neighbor of your
By law, where someone
of your
lives.
deputy supervisor.
By law, you already know where someone lives.
As long as you're both talking, the clock runs.
Are you done? Okay. Secondly,
Back a little
you
more
also
respectfully, yes, we're giving you respect too.
Secondly, you also approved a resolution today for more business for Cash and Spinelli. Cash and Spinelli is the same firm that verified Harinder Singh, did all those capital improvements at Tobey and at the Woodlands. Again, new day. Secondly, you still haven't addressed publicly what happened with Commissioner Lenz. You said the town was looking into that, investigating that. At the last meeting, we haven't heard anything public. But now that Mr. Muscarell is back, I'm sure you heard my question on the speaker. I just asked.
Accused of any wrongdoing or anything improper, okay?
Okay, I was just.
Serve the town of Oyster Bay with honor and integrity and everything else. If someone brings false witness against me, I'm sorry to say, that's the way it is.
Okay, because I was just asking, and I was just asking for you to publicly address it, because you were mentioned twice, not just by Singh, but also by your former colleague, Leonard Genova, and he specifically said that he was asked to talk to you about making that payment, which he said was never done. So you're claiming it's completely false. Okay, thank you. That's all. New day. Thank you.
The next speaker is Arthur Edelman. Hi, Arthur, how are you? It's amazing. People can come before the board, make things up, make any accusation, out and out lie, but it's the public comment portion, so we'll continue to listen to people.
Everything. Well, yes, how I was a little disappointed I was passed over for the Ethics Board, but I'll get over that.
I can assure you that this is a fluid situation, and we'll continue to look at resumes, and this is one round, and the committee will continue to look at them.
Well, I was told during the process that they were looking for one Republican, one Democrat, it being a registered Republican. I've missed this time around. Anyway, what I really want to comment on is I found something very interesting today. During the voting on resolutions, there were a bunch of negative votes on particular resolutions by the councilwoman and the councilman. But I don't understand, if I was on a board and I'm in the process, in the back of my mind, I might be taking a minority stance, a negative vote. First of all, I'd want to express my reason to the public why I have negative feelings towards a particular resolution in the attempt to possibly sway my colleagues to vote my way and not get the resolution passed. I was very curious why Councilman Hand voted against the...
Well, Mr. Edelman, the way the system works, everybody is free to vote their conscience, and they're free to express or not express themselves. But remember, people can legally, one-on-one, come see me and talk about an issue. That's legal, that's appropriate. So my door is always open.
But I'm just curious on why there was no... I know Councilman Magignon, when he's here and he's voting against something, he expresses why he's voting against something.
Sometimes, not all the time.
No, I've seen it, he has.
Okay.
But I'm just, curious, is there a reason why Councilman Hand was against the...
Yeah, Mr. Edelman, I'll be very clear on why. On 312, I had asked the question, and it was going to be answered by council, but council went outside with one of the residents, so my question was not answered. So therefore, I didn't feel comfortable with the increase of the 100 spots and of that nature, so I didn't want to go forward at that point without having the answers to my questions.
But I mean, and then there were a lot of resolutions pertaining to the engineering contracts, and those were passed over as a negative.
I'll tell you something interesting, Arthur. I think it's an interesting observation that and I've often thought, there's really no point in the meeting that it's appropriate, not appropriate, but that it's carved out for council members to express their opinions or questions on resolutions. In fact, I think you probably see me frequently kind of lean over like this and say, Supervisor, I have a question. And he never says, no, I can't ask it. But it's not like we have, short of the one time that Councilman Mackignone actually got up and walked to the podium, it's almost like we're not treated like other residents in terms of our ability to ask questions and speak on resolutions unless we specifically make a point of doing so, which is fine, but I think it tends to over-politicize things. I am very happy that we heard today that the Inspector General is moving forward. I was unaware how far we had proceeded in that process until I heard it from the supervisor. I'm thrilled to hear it, and I'm awaiting the Inspector General before voting on any other contracts.
And I have encouraged board members to come speak to us in the administration. We're here every day. We're here to answer their questions, listen to their concerns. The idea is not to make decisions and then hash it out here at the town board meeting. The idea is to work together to find solutions, to listen to issues, to correct something that maybe there's another view. We work as a board. It's not one individual running the town, it's the board. So we have the ability to meet with them, and we do on an individual basis. We don't meet as a group. That can only be done in a town board hearing publicly, but we have every right, and we should be continuing to meet, and I always encourage the board members. We see each other at events almost daily. We have the ability to talk one-on-one, listen to their feelings. So the idea is not to wait and then hash it out publicly. The idea is to come together, listen to the public, listen to their concerns, listen to the board members, work out the nuts and bolts of government, and then come here with some consensus. You're not always going to get a consensus. And quite frankly, as someone who's been around for a while, I would imagine you'd be very happy to see the fact that no longer are people voting in lockstep. They're voting their conscience. They're talking about the issues openly, but that has to be treated by the public and the media responsibly.
No, dissent is a wonderful thing. I like to see it. You know?
Mr. Edelman, I can
don't
only
want to make it tumultuous, but a little bit of dissent keeps everyone on their toes. I think.
I can only speak for myself, but I know that I know pretty much where I stand on a resolution well before I come to this meeting, and we come here and we listen to the public, but I don't think that anybody is simply making their mind up on the spot. So I think that, we try to talk to each other beforehand and work out our disagreements if necessary. Some people spring it on us last minute,
But I would like to be so prepared before the meetings. Yesterday, I was waiting for the bulk draft resolutions, the backup information to appear online. It didn't come up until after 3 o'clock. I couldn't look through, the main menu of what all the
So what I
abbreviated
suggest,
versions
this
are.
is what I'm going to suggest. Matt Rosea, please raise your hand.
I know, Matt.
Okay. So I would suggest you make regular phone calls to Matt so that it sounds like you want to be more apprised of specifics. Matt is in a position to provide more information on specifics. We could be here 12 hours with board meetings.
Sure.
And to get every detail across, but we're always here to provide those details to the public. We want to continue to be transparent, but on more specific information, please ask Mr. Rosea, and we want you to be, as all our residents, we want them to be very well informed.
Well, I would just like to see if we can somehow get the draft resolution, the 300-page document that follows, the abbreviated version, get that up earlier in the day or the Friday before or Saturday. If there was some way where the public as well as your board members, could see them well in advance, even if it's the first 10 resolutions, first 10 drafts. Just keep adding to it as more things are scheduled to be spoken about at a meeting. I don't know. It's just very hard to get the bulk draft resolutions at 3:20 p.m. and try to prepare for the meeting. Thank you, and I'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you. All right, that's all we have on public comment. I thank everybody for being with us today, and that concludes our meeting.